We're going to talk a little bit about Memorial Day because this is Memorial Day weekend and a lot of people are traveling and going places. And supposedly it was the biggest car travel weekend in many years, if maybe forever. And also airplanes are filled again. Um, so let's talk a little bit about Memorial Day. And again, I said earlier, every time I hear somebody say Happy Memorial Day, it turns my stomach. Because that's not what Memorial Day is. It's not a happy day. It shouldn't be a happy day. It's not supposed to be a happy day. It's like somebody wishing when you go to Yisker services, you should have a happy Yisker service. It doesn't make sense. It's completely screwed up. Anyway, it was in the year 1868 when General John Logan issued General Order Number 11, calling for a National Day of Remembrance for our Civil War dead. So it started because of the Civil War. And then May 30th of that year, 1868, was the day designated for this observance. Flowers were placed on the graves of the fallen soldiers of both the Union and the Confederate armies. It made sense. From this, Memorial Day was eventually instituted as the National Day of Observance. Now, many of you have heard me tell this story, but I can't help but tell it again. The first Marine Corps Jewish chaplain was Lieutenant Roland B. Gittleson, and he lived from 1910 to 1995. He delivered what has become a very famous eulogy when the fighting on Iwo Jima ended. I know this story is not pumped up and is not exaggerated folklore because my father, Oliver Shalom Cantor Ivan Perlman, who was a fighting Marine, stood right next to Rabbi Gittleson because Rabbi Gittleson loved my father's voice, and he asked him to chant the El Mole Rachamim right after the eulogy, which he did. And he told me the story, so I know it's true. But here is the backstory. 50 naval chaplains hit the beach of Iwo Jima with the Marines, including Rabbi Gittleson, the first Jewish chaplain to serve with the Marine Corps. He was one of about 1,500 Jewish Marines who engaged in a 25-day battle in that sulfury island that cost the lives of 6,800 Marines. So a lot of people died. That's why we have Memorial Day. So when the fighting was over, Division Chaplain Warren Cottrell, who was a Protestant minister, asked Rabbi Gittleson to deliver the eulogy at a combined non-denominational memorial service, dedicating the Marine Cemetery. The Catholic chaplains said no. They objected and fought and argued, and they were having none of this. They did not want a Jewish person to preach over predominantly Christian graves, more so those of the Catholic religion. They opposed any combined religious services. The Catholics had to have their own. Cottrell, again a Protestant, didn't back down. He fought and fought. But Rabbi Gittleson, decided not to add to the controversy. Instead, they had 3 separate religious services, and they were held with the rabbi presiding over the one for the Jews. Though for those 70 Jews in attendance, Rabbi Gittleson, who later became the rabbi of Temple Israel in Boston, delivered the message he had originally written for the combined service. His eulogy was so powerful, it was circulated by another chaplain, a non-Jewish chaplain, and it was read into the congressional record. It was also the only one of the 3 eulogies, the Jewish, Protestant, and Catholic eulogies. It was the only one that was broadcast on Armed Services Radio. So while some of the words are no longer politically correct to say today, it doesn't matter. The message he delivered sure is, and here was his eulogy. Here lie men who loved America because their ancestors generations ago helped in her founding, and other men who loved her with equal passion because they themselves or their own fathers escaped from oppression to her blessed shores. Here lie officers and men, Negroes and whites, rich men and poor, together. Here are Protestants, Catholics, and Jews together. Here no man prefers another because of his faith or despises him because of his color. Here there are no quotas of how many from each group are admitted or allowed. Among these men, there is no discrimination, no prejudices, no hatred. Theirs is the highest and purest democracy. Whoever of us lifts his hand in hate against a brother, or who thinks himself superior to those who happen to be in the minority, makes of this ceremony and the bloody sacrifice it commemorates an empty, hollow mockery. To this, then, as our solemn duty, sacred duty, do we, the living, now dedicate ourselves to the right of Protestants, Catholics, and Jews, of white men and Negroes alike, to enjoy the democracy for which all of them here have paid the price. We here solemnly swear that this shall not be in vain. Out of this and from the suffering and sorrow of those who mourn this will come, we promise, the birth of a new freedom for the sons of men everywhere. Amen. And then my father chanted the Kel Mole, which there is no recording of, unfortunately. So for our Jewish people, memory has long been a source of focus and inspiration. We have 4,000 years behind us. As historian Yosef Yerushalayim and others have pointed out, the biblical appeal to remember, by the way, in the Tanakh, in the Hebrew Bible, Yizkor, the word to remember, appears 169 times. The word Mashiach, which doesn't mean Mashiach, by the way, it does a couple of times, only appears 37 times. What do you think? Which is more important, to remember or the Mashiach? If you go by the number of times it's mentioned in the Tanakh, it has to be by far Yizkor, to remember. But to the Jew, to remember has little to do with the past. Instead, it is a religious imperative to act, to grab hold of the story, and to make it our own. When the Torah says to Yizkor, to remember, it is to help us work to make the future just a little bit better than the way we find it. That's so important to us. This is because there is nothing that we can do to change what happened in the past. The prayer of Yizkor invites us to bring to mind someone who lived. And we do that to remember what they taught us so that we can pledge anew to act in ways that honor those lessons and values as we move forward. It's about the future. As Americans, we celebrate liberty and freedom. We all know that. The independence we treasure is a result of hard-fought battles at the sacrifice of many who put themselves on the front line to protect that sovereignty. Hundreds of thousands of Americans, men, women, fathers, and mothers wives, husbands, friends, partners, and siblings have given the ultimate sacrifice of their lives willingly while defending our liberties. No matter the debate of a given war, a military action, or a humanitarian effort, no matter how much we like it or don't like it as a people, we still owe it to those who gave their lives to remember and to continue their legacy by remembering the immortal words of Rabbi Roland Gittelshin. He should rest in peace. Aleo Shalom. To the work side by side with people of different religions, races, skin color, sexual inclination, and ideology, and to uphold the rights of all people, and to rid ourselves of hatred and bigotry in everything we do. The real meaning of Memorial Day invites us to remember, to reflect, and to recommit to defending the personal freedom of people throughout the entire world, not just us, so that the day will come when we will no longer have to add new names to the extremely long list of those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice on our behalf. Sometimes the words of children say it best. So in closing, I share these words from a child by the name of Georgiana, who was a fifth grader from New Hampshire. Remember the brave soldiers who gave their lives for our freedom. God bless them and all these courageous men and women. They fought on land, others at sea, sacrificing their lives for you and me. Schools and offices respect these heroes from the past by flying our beautiful flag at half-mast. As you watch the parade and hear the trumpets play, please think about what we celebrate on Memorial Day. Amen. And I'd like to wish you all a Shabbat Shalom. And also, Am Yisrael Chai.